You can do it with less money, but that would be my advice to somebody who's saying, hey Hayden, how much money do I need to be a passive investor? Now, I think of real estate as a ladder. For most people, obviously, the higher up, the better. But the real estate ladder, in my mind, goes something like this. It starts at the bottom, which is like an agent or a wholesaler, somebody who does not own real estate in any way, shape, or form, and is really making fees off of just being inside of the real estate world. And then most people use that to go up to the next step, which is, maybe flipping houses. Next step above that would be somebody who buys single-family houses for cash flow, long-term holds. Above that is where I like to play, which is in the commercial space. People who buy properties and just own properties, right? Commercial properties. Above that would be somebody who is a syndicator. This is called a general partner or a syndicator, somebody who goes out, finds deals, gets money from investors, puts the two together. And then the final, like the person who's on top of that ladder, in my mind, the ultimate goal is a passive investor. Somebody who doesn't do any work. They just say, hey, looks like a good deal. I like the deal that the general partner is offering to me. Here's a check for X amount of dollars. Today I want to talk about being that person at the top of the ladder, but I just want to be clear that you can jump to any spot on that ladder. But some people say hey, I'm a real estate agent and my goal is to never own property. I don't think I've ever heard that, but if that's you, then cool. I'm not trying to attack you and say you need to be moving up. If you want to go buy single family houses, doesn't mean you have to be a wholesaler and a flipper before you can do that. You can kind of jump onto any rung at the ladder and try to ascend your way up at any point. So are you an accredited investor? That's the first thing that you have to answer, right? But let's first define what an accredited investor is. An accredited investor, if you make, I think it's $200,000 a year, and you expect to continue to make $200,000 a year, and you are single, that's an accredited investor. Or if you're married, you have to make, I think it's $300,000 a year. Or it doesn't have to be and. You can just meet any of these criteria. The next one is, do you have a net worth of $1 million excluding your equity in your personal residence? And if the answer is yes to either of those, then you are an accredited investor and you can invest in a lot more opportunities than if you're unaccredited. You'll see a lot of time real estate people or whomever will say, this is an opportunity for accredited investors only. If you're not accredited, you can invest in that. Even if you have more money than, let's say, somebody who is accredited. And you can start investing in deals for probably $25,000. I think that there are some new things out there, like Fundrise or CrowdStreet, and I think a lot of those minimums are $25,000. There might be some $5,000 or $10,000 minimums out there. Then most of the time, people like me, private syndicators, sponsors, generally my minimums to invest in a deal are gonna be $100,000 or $50,000. I'm not gonna accept $25,000. And the reason I'm not gonna do that is because if I need to go raise $500,000, there's a saying that I have, in business that a mentor taught me, which is more partners, more problems. And that's not really, like a dig on having partners, but the truth is that life happens. And whenever you're in a financial investment relationship with somebody, that's like a marriage. And whenever that person has problems, money problems, let's say they get a divorce, let's say that, their life changes unexpectedly and they don't care about this investment anymore, it's just you're gonna be dealing with more problems. Because if you have fewer people in the deal, it's easier to manage the problems of all the partners as they go through time. And that's why minimums really exist. Another reason minimums exist is because if you're taking somebody who has $10,000, that person's gonna be a lot more worried about their money generally than somebody who can easily write a check for $100,000. It's just the truth of how things work. Well, let's talk about if you're an unaccredited investor, which is the majority of the nation and most people who say, hey, I'm just getting started in real estate, Hayden. How do I actually go through and do this? Just because you're not accredited doesn't mean you can't be a passive investor. But here's what has to happen. You cannot invest in a lot of public deals. There's different regulations within the SEC, but most deals, it just doesn't make sense for sponsors and syndicators to go through the hassle of doing the paperwork to accept unaccredited investors at $5,000 or $10,000. But what you can do, if you have a pre-existing relationship with a sponsor or a syndicator, so say my cousin, right? My cousin who lives here near me, if I were doing a deal, my cousin who's unaccredited could invest with me in my deals at whatever amount of money I wanted to take from my cousin. If it was only $2,000, I could take $2,000 from my cousin because we have a pre-existing relationship. And so they don't have to meet the thresholds, of being an accredited investor, but I can't go out and I can't pair my cousin's money with other money. Like, let's say I'm doing a deal and I shoot out on my email list, like, hey, if you want to invest with me, here's the investment sign up link, right? I can't also put accredited investors that, let's say I don't have a pre-existing relationship but do want to invest with me. I can't put those person and my cousin inside of the same deal. If I'm going to take those people's money, I can't take my cousin's money, and vice versa. If I'm going to take my cousin's money, I can't take people who I don't know who kind of meet those regulations. And so the answer is like, if you're not accredited but you want to be a passive investor, you just need to put in the work of building a relationship with somebody like me who goes out, a sponsor syndicator. I don't mean like somebody who has their own YouTube channel or somebody who's written a book or things like that. What I mean by that is like, you need to go to local real estate meetups. You need to be talking with people who are out there doing deals and seeking investor capital, because what somebody could do is like, let's say you had $5,000 is, let's say we go to Dave and we meet Dave at the local RIA meetup. Dave might need 50 grand for a deal. He's gonna put in 10 grand and you're gonna put in 5 grand, and there's gonna be some other unaccredited investors there, and all of you guys are gonna do this deal together. Like, because you have a relationship, then that can happen. The point though is like, how much money does it take to get started? The answer is it's really like up to what you can negotiate with somebody who legally is able to take your money. But I would just generally say, I would invest in your education, meaning like if you're a salesperson, invest in your education to learn how to sell better so you can make more money. If you're an accountant, like learn how to be the best accountant that can charge more money possible. If you're working at McDonald's, invest in your skills and learn how to increase your income and learn how to stack that up. And then once you've learned how to generate more money that you can go invest, then I would say you need to invest in your real estate education, which you're watching this video, you're already doing. That's what I'm talking about, so that you can recognize a good deal. Because if you're just like,
hey Hayden, I have $6,000. I know a little bit about real estate, but I just really want to be a passive investor. So I'm going to go invest $5,000. I'm going to leave myself with $1,000, and I don't have a prospect of going out, of making more money.
I don't think that's a good play. I think the minimum you should ever invest in a deal is probably $25,000. And so invest in yourself, whatever money you have now, to the point where you can get to $25,000 and you feel confident in making another $25,000. Because after you invest that $25,000, you're broke, right? You have no money and you need to restock again so that you can invest again and again and again. And so generally that would be my advice. I wouldn't even think about being a passive investor until you feel confident in your skill set of, I can make 25K, I can make 25K, I can make 25K. You need to be investing in relationships with people. You need to be investing in your real estate education so that whenever a deal does come along that you can invest 25 grand into, you're not relying on the sponsor or the syndicator to say like, hey, listen, this is a good deal, give me your 25 grand. You need to just say, hey, like, send me some details on the deal, and you need to be able to analyze that deal for yourself. The question is like, how do you do that? And so there's a deal within a deal, which you need to understand if you're gonna be a passive investor, how those structures work. And I've got a video on the 3 different ways that you can raise investor capital, but put yourself on the other side of that table, which is 3 different structures you can invest in. And so I'll put that video in the top right corner so you can watch that video next. That'd be my 2 cents for you guys on how much money does it take to be a passive investor. Number 1, know if you're accredited or unaccredited and what set of rules you're playing by. And then after that, figure out, hey, how much money do I have if I'm accredited? Who's gonna take the amount of money that I have and feel comfortable investing with? If I'm unaccredited, who can I meet? Who can I network with until I become an accredited investor so that I can start putting these monies to work? And then again, of course, increase your skill set, generate more income, and then invest a minimum of $25,000 at a time. That's my advice. I hope you found this valuable. Do me a favor, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, check out some other videos on my channel, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions at all. See ya.